G'day everyone in the brew today, brewing a Talus IPA. Talus is a newish hop. It's been around as a number for a long time, but they've named it, which means, you know, they think it's a good one. While I was at Gab's, the only beer that sort of, to me, that stood out that was like a new ingredient at Gab's was a Talus IPA from Jetty Road Brewing. Big shout out to Sean at Jetty Road. Hopefully he's going to give us a recipe for the brew in the brewery series, which will be awesome. Their Talus More IPA won a gold medal in this year's Australian International Beer Awards. So did their regular house IPA too, so that's really good. So I ordered, as soon as I got home, I ordered some Talus hops. So did a couple of my mates actually, and so I'm going to try them here today. I've mucked around with the recipe a little bit. I haven't brewed this recipe before, of course. It's the first time I've used this hop. Been chopping and changing. I know it's basically an aroma hop, so there's going to be a lot of dry hop and just a whirlpool edition. I was going to throw some in the boil, but I've heard mixed reports. I had a big 5-minute edition, or 40 gram 5-minute edition, which I've changed, moved over to the whirlpool, so everything's going in the whirlpool, a hot whirlpool. I'm not chilling it. It's, you know, not many breweries do. It's a very hard thing to do in a big brewery, and I want the bitterness. That's where my bitterness is coming from. There is 15 grams of Magnum at the start. The usual IPA rule, which is pretty standard, is 1/3 bittering hop and 2/3 flavour aroma hop at the end. Now that's for a classic IPA. Like a lot of the modern IPAs these days are a bit soft, so they might skip, you know, the 60-minute and get it all from the whirlpool, but I like that traditional 60-minute edition. So there's a bit of Magnum at the start and Talus at the end. Why wouldn't I do a smash beer? I don't do many smash beers. The only smash beer I would have probably done on my channel in all these years, 10 years or so, would have been like a Pilsner or something like that, and that's, you know, traditional Pilsner malt and Hallertau hops or something like that. I find other beers can be often lacking, and I think if you're testing out a hop, you're much better off testing it out in a grain bill you're accustomed to, rather than going, oh, I want to try out this hop and I'm just going to throw in, you know, 100% Pilsner malt or something. You need a little bit of balance sometimes when you're throwing a lot of hops at it. Even though this beer here hasn't got much, but it's got some Munich to give a little bit of complexity and a little bit of something more than just a Pilsner malt. And it's the same with hops too. I nearly thought of adding a little bit of Citra or something tiny into the end of this. Because I've taken the Talus out of the boil, I contemplated, you know, putting in, you know, maybe just a small amount, 15 grams or something of Citra or something in the last 5 minutes to give the beer a little bit more flavour. But I've stuck with just the Talus at the end, but I've got the Magnum at the start. Yeah, so I've got Pilsner malt, Munich malt. You've seen me make the recipe, I don't have to go through everything. A little bit of Carapils just because it was hanging around. I don't usually use that either very often, but it was hanging around and I've got to get rid of it. And dextrose to back up. So it's a classic IPA. IPAs often have dextrose or sugar. Don't be afraid to use household sugar if you need to. Alright, let's get into it and we brew it, and hopefully, it's not trying to be a clone of the Talus More, and it won't be, because I don't think, I think they had a bit more in their malt, maybe oats or something in their IPA. I'm just guessing here, and I only had, you know, a couple of taster glasses. I did have 3 or 4, but you know, I was enjoying the beer. I wasn't analysing it too much. But mine's going to be really straightforward grain bill, thin, not thin, just a typical West Coast IPA. Let's go. So I start with my usual 20 litres of water that has been dechlorinated. I use sodium metabisulfite. You can use a Candom tablet, of course. I then add my salts. This was about 50 to 200 chloride sulfite ratio. And I also added some lactic acid and gave it a good mix. We are in lockdown at the moment, and I am homeschooling my 2 kids. This was late afternoon after homeschooling had finished, and I just wanted to get a real move on with this brew, so I didn't use my old mill that's set up for wet condition grain. thought I'd use my other mill, which I hadn't used for a while, but I set it at 50 thou. It's about 1.1 mil, and I milled the grain, and it looked okay. There were some grains that looked fairly whole, but as I picked them up, they looked crushed. As soon as I started mashing in, you can see me here, I'm picking out whole grains. I knew I was going to be in a little bit of trouble. I wasn't too worried. It could have just been the Munich being slightly smaller than the Gladfield malts I was using, but I was finding a lot of whole grains. I was expecting my numbers to be down, but that's okay because I was adding decks, and if I had to add a little bit more decks or sugar at the end just to up the numbers, that's fine. This wasn't a clone recipe or anything, just a recipe I was making up to try out this hop. One thing I hadn't done for a while was check my connections were tight, and you betcha, one was loose. Leak. Nearly burnt myself, but it was all good. I'll watch it in slow-mo. Quick tighten up, and we're off again. From here everything went smoothly. I waited 5 minutes or so for all the grains to get wet, gave it a small stir and got the pump on. I didn't use rice hulls because I could tell I didn't need to from all my whole husks, and everything was good, nice flow. My pH was good. I was like 0.03 up or something, what I expected. Nothing to worry about at all. So I did a 60-minute mash and then a mash out. By the end of that, nice clean wort. Pull the basket and sparge with about another 15 litres. I actually wanted to give this a stir during the mash, which I forgot about. Everything was running so smoothly, I forgot. But because there's so many whole looking husks, I really wanted to give it a stir during the mash. But anyway, it's too late for that now, really. The joys of firm cap. Added my dextrose. I was a little down on numbers, so instead of the 200 grams in the recipe, I added 300 grams at first, and then I was still a little down, so I added just a couple of tablespoons more. I didn't weigh it. It wouldn't have been over 400 grams all up. Once we were back to boiling, I started the 60-minute timer and put in my 15 grams of Magnum. Ten minutes before the end, I had the whirlpool arm, some yeast nutrient and some Werflock. At the end of boil, turn off the elements, wait for it to settle down a bit, turn on the whirlpool, then I add my 110 grams of Talus. Talus can be a little bit hard to find, but I'll leave a link below to where you can buy it. It's from Beer Co. If you use my link, I'll get 10% off my next buys, and then if someone uses your link after that buy, you'll get 10% off. I don't make any money from it, but I'll leave a link in the description to Beerco anyway. Thank you. I might be overdoing the slow-mo, but it's something I just love to watch. A whirlpool for 10 minutes, and then I'll let it settle for 10 minutes before I start chilling. Just a quick note from the Supercoach. It's about 6 minutes in, and we've dropped. I was just flicking it. It was 97 just a second ago. I thought I'd give you a look, but we're 96 at 6 minutes in. That's why I say it's sort of hard. Say with programs like Brew, it's going down to nearly 95. You know, starting to flick to 95. When they say you're doing a 20-minute whirlpool, and you put it in at 98. Or if you're one of the people that like doing 80-degree ones for some reason, it's not going to stay there. I mean, yeah, you could put the elements on, but you know, I don't know. I haven't heard of people putting elements on during whirlpool, but I mean, you could. But it might stop things settling out a bit. But yeah, so you don't really know. See, I know I'm going to get a fair bit of bitterness, but you know, by the time this first even 10 minutes is finished, before I turn the pump off, yeah, it's looking like it's going to be like around 90 maybe, probably a little bit higher. It's 95 now. We've probably got about 3 minutes to go of the first 10 minutes, and then I'll let it steep for 10 minutes. I've just started the chilling process, and at the end of the 20-minute whirlpool, we're down to 86. It's probably been 22 minutes or something now. There's the colour there, the sample I got in the hydro. Excuse the top of my beer glass there. There's a little bit stuck on the top of the hydro. But yeah, clearing nicely. So there we are in the fermenter fridge, haven't put the lid on yet. We're clearing nicely. There's a little bit too much protein in there. That will all disappear in a little while. I get a lot of questions about that. People freak out. Look, if I wanted a perfectly clear beer and I had a bit of a bigger setup and a little bit more time, I would leave that out and you'll get a clearer beer. But also, there's people that say that it feeds the yeast as well. There's all sorts of things. That there is too much and too little, I guess. But that will disappear. This beer is actually clearing really fast. I'll only just stick it in the fridge after we've finished. I'm going to put some yeast in. We are sitting at 21.6 and I'm set at 18.7. I do that because it's sort of, I've got it set at 0.3, so it goes up to 19 is the highest it goes to. That's where I want it. It goes down to 18.4. But it's clearing very well up the top. I'm going to throw some yeast in. 2 packs of verdant. Yeah, you could probably get away with 1 pack, but, you know, follow the instructions. What does that say? Half to 1 gram a litre. Yeah, well, I've got 22 in there, so 2 packs is perfect. By the time I get the yeast in, I'm going to put the tilt in and put the lid on. Within, you know, an hour, this will be down to ferment temp, as I said, which is only a degree or 2 down from where it's at right now. Good fridge, this one. Fermenter fridge, get one without a freezer. A nice big plate if you can. G'day, it's time for dry hopping. It is now Tuesday, so I made this beer and pitched yeast late on Thursday evening. So it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday and Monday, Tuesday. It's 5 days in. we are down to, besides the tilt always gets caught in krausen. If anyone's got one, you will know that. And it's looked like it was been hovering around the 1020, 1022 for a long time, but I gave it a good shake this morning. There's a big lump of yeast stuck on the top of the tilt, and it seems to have settled out at about 1015. I'm only expecting this to go down to about 1013, 1012, so it's time to get some dry hops in. I always like to dry hop just before the end of ferment. I think you get way better utilization. I just end up with a lot better product. I don't drop my temperature. I haven't found that to be any benefit to me at all, so I don't do that. I'll actually raise the temperature just to help it make sure it's finished fermenting after I add these hops. So I'm adding the full 140 grams I have left. It probably doesn't need that. You could probably halve it or even put 50 grams in. It did have a big Whirlpool edition, but you know, I'm just going to use up this whole packet and get it in there. I just want to remind you too that this isn't a Talus IPA from Jetty Road clone. This is just me testing out this new hop, and this recipe hasn't been tried before, but I'm sure it's going to be nice. Let's get them in. So you won't be able to see from back there, but it's as I usually say, it's about time to dry hop most of the time when the krausen, and you start seeing in the bigger bubbles, you can see the wort through the bubbles. You know, it's just one layer of thin bubbles, and that's usually a good indication. It's at least a good indication to take a reading and see if you're ready to dry hop. I'm lucky I've got the tilt in there, so I know I'm ready to dry hop. You don't want to mess around, so I'll get the hops ready first. It would even be good to put these in a cup or something. Actually, that's what I might do. It's a lot easier to do that than to struggle with a bag while you're trying to, you know, do this quite quickly. 140 grams Talus. It smells good. And I can say the aromas the last couple of days coming out of here have been really, really nice too. I just let a little bit of gas out, just till I can undo the lid, and then the gas will help me get that lid off. Yeah, that gas pushed it up itself. I won't purge that at all. There'll be CO2 being released from the beer, and that'll push any oxygen out that got through. There's a little bit of krausen protecting the wort. Now I'll leave that for about half an hour to an hour, and as the pressure builds up again, I'll come down and let a bit of the pressure out. That way any oxygen that got in then will have a chance to be vented off. You can try purging, but do it really, really low. If you purge with a high gas pressure, all you're going to do is push the krausen away from the top of the beer, and any oxygen in there is just going to mix into that beer, and that's not what you want at all. Okay, that's it. I'll leave that for about 3 days, throw it in the keg, get it carved up, and we'll do a tasting video. So thanks to everyone for watching. Like, subscribe, share if you feel the need, and a big special thanks to my patrons. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.